This podcast is brought to you by RAMM Horse Fencing and Stalls, the one-stop shop for your horse farm. RAMM is family-owned and operated and has been in business for over 30 years. We welcome you to call in and speak with an expert about your next project today at 866-653-8984. Again, that's 866-653-8984.
Western pleasure riding, barrel racing, polo, and A-circuit jumpers, Fae Leffler is a well-rounded rider. For the past 20 years, her main focus has been dressage with 2 recently imported Dutch warmbloods. She resides in Northwest Ohio at her beloved Foxfire Farm with her husband Doc and a variety of animals. Welcome, Fae.
Hi, Fae.
Thank you for having me, you guys. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Yeah.
To you too as well.
So Fae, we just wanted to hear a little bit more about your farm.
Well, it's a beautiful place in Bowling Green, Ohio.
It's gorgeous.
Which is Wood County. And we actually moved back here from Florida after being there for about 20 years.
You wanted to be in the cold.
We did. What you won't do for family.
Yeah.
So we came back for family. And we found a beautiful piece of property, and we just built our dream.
Your home is so unique, though. Please just tell us more about that, because it's just gorgeous.
Thank you.
It's an equestrian person's dream home.
It is. It's my paradise. It's the first thing that we built was the indoor arena. So we kind of have a tendency to do things backwards. Everything's geared toward the animals and their comfort, and then our comfort comes second. But
2-horse person.
We built our indoor and our stables for the horses, and then we actually built a living space onto the end of the stables, thinking that would be a great lodge kind of party room for later, and then we were going to build a big house. But after living in that lodge area that was attached to the barn the first winter, I thought, well, geez, I don't want to house that I actually had to go outside in the cold. I'll just stay here. So that ended up just becoming our home.
And it's lovely. It's beautiful.
It turned out really fabulous.
I think the one thing I remember from it is the upstairs. Isn't there a window where you can overlook?
Yes.
And you can go out. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yep, you can. The upstairs has a bay window that looks down into the aisleway of the barn, and then downstairs is connected directly to the barn as well, so you can just walk through the hallway directly into the stables, and it's contiguous, the design, so it's almost like the stables is our home. It really is. And I always joke that the 8 stalls that we have are my 8 bedrooms for my 8 children, because they really are. And we put it together with a lot of love and making it be very warm and inviting and comfortable. We use our stables a lot for parties. It's a great, long dining room, and I can set up the longest dining room table in there for Thanksgiving dinners.
It's beautiful.
We just recently had a birthday party for Bonnie out there. And so, it turned out to be just the best place, and every day we thank God for it. Yeah. For what we've been able to put together and what we've been able to achieve.
Yep. And you also have other animals there too, though. You have a little area. We had seen that too, that you had built for your sheep, and that's been some time ago. But then a little sheep, I don't know, it's gorgeous. It's like a little house for the sheep, basically. Yes. It's beautiful. And you have what kind of sheep?
We have Old English baby doll sheep. And they are about a square. They're as tall as they are wide. And they are just the sweetest little creatures. So peaceful, so easy to take care of. Aww. And they provide us with wool every year. We get to harvest their wool. We have a gentleman that comes from up in Michigan, and he shears them for me. And then I send their wool out to be processed at Zeilinger's Wool in Frankenmuth, Michigan. And then they return the wool for me in batting form, in a bat form, that I make blankets into. Several years ago, I became aware of the need for cancer patients going through chemotherapy, that they are always very cold. And so from there, it just sort of developed into a little very it's an organic sort of thing that we call the Loving Lam Foundation.
Okay, cool.
which is also my initials backwards.
Oh, how sweet.
And it's kind of like it was meant to be. So the Loving Lam Foundation I try to make these blankets and provide them towards people in need. It's not always cancer patients. It's just people that come to my awareness that are in need, that are suffering. And it's just, amazing what a blanket like this can do to make somebody feel warm and loved. But that's the Loving Lam Foundation, and it's been fun. It's fun to make these blankets.
So they brought one today, and it's on our lap right now, and it's just so soft and comfortable. It feels so good. I feel quite loved right now. So, do you know how many blankets you've done? Possibly even like a ballpark figure at this point, maybe.
I think that I have done probably close to 40.
Wow.
I've made one
That's
for
a lot.
every single member of my family.
Wow.
And that's probably 30.
Wow.
And then I've given out at least 10.
And it takes one sheep fleece to make a blanket then.
Correct.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. And you have chickens?
We have chickens. We have 4 chickens.
Anything else that I know you have your
We have,
ducks?
just your, I'm sorry, Bonnie's giving me we have 6 chickens.
Okay,
Sorry.
make sure you don't forget anybody.
I know.
Yeah.
So we have 6 chickens, and we have 5 cats. We have 3 dogs. We have 2 little cute French bulldogs, and then 1 hound dog.
So sweet.
And then the 2 horses.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So let's talk about that. Let's
The koi fish. We have our koi fish
too. Yes. And
I like me some fish.
Mm.
I got 2 beta fish.
No. No.
Not as big as a koi, but
no. Yeah. So, you have an extensive background with horses. When did you start riding? Even when has it been, Fae?
Got bit by the bug when I was just a wee child.
Okay.
And driving by, I'd be like, I want a horse. So my parents actually gave in when I was probably like 7 or 8.
So it was like 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your math is right on. So I got my first horse really young, and I remember my first horse, I think, was like $375, and to keep it every month it was like $50.
Aw.
And we had to drive like 10 minutes to the country.
Aw.
And my parents were just like, "Oh, what are we doing?" And
and that was your
it.
first love.
That was my first
Do
love.
you remember your horse's name or your pony's name?
Yes, my first horse's name was Rustigan.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
that's cute.
He was a half Arab. I think he was 3/4 Arab and quarter horse.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a registered Palomino.
Oh, wow.
So he was kind of weird, but he was really beautiful
That's awesome.
and fun.
So, how did you start, getting into different things? You said that you were into Western pleasure riding, barrel racing. How did that all come to be?
That was just through 4-H. I got involved with 4-H also young and went through all the 4-H stuff and really got into the versatility because I really liked both the English and the Western. And I had a horse that wasn't your typical Western pleasure horse,
Right.
So I had to make the most of it. So I learned every different discipline so that I could rack up the points because I wasn't really good at just one thing.
Aw.
Anyway, so I went from there through my childhood till I was like 18. When I was early teens, I probably got more into English and jumping. And then I actually stopped riding for like 2 years. I actually went to school at Findlay for their equine program. And then after I lost my father, everything sort of got shook up. So I stopped riding for a little bit. And then I met my husband a couple years later, and he bought me this great big thoroughbred off the track and said, you have to have this in your life.
And was
Oh my
that
gosh.
big generator?
That was actually a horse named Chewy.
Okay.
Who
okay.
was-
Oh, I remember. Chewy. Yep.
Chewy was the big gray horse.
Okay. Yep. I remember.
And he was at your farm.
Yep. I remember that. That's how we met.
Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So
Did you
Okay.
board at her farm?
we did when we got into polo. My husband and I got into polo, and we were living in Florida, and we were coming back and forth, and we had acquired all these horses over the winter.
Polo ponies
Yeah.
and horses. Mm-hmm.
And so we were like, where are we going to take all these horses and keep them? So we reached out to Debbie and Mike, and they were gracious enough to let us come into their home and their farm and lease their barn. And that's where it all started. I mean, Debbie and I, that was where we met.
Yeah.
Was this at RAMM?
This was at RAMM.
This is
And,
on RAMM Road.
It's funny because I was thinking about this last night. I think UPS was a new thing then. And I would honestly,
at least in our area.
it was.
Yeah.
And I was thinking
in our
about
neck of the woods.
your mom started to develop RAMM fence out of the one building that they had on the property. And here she was, the pioneer woman, starting this fence company. And UPS would come down the driveway. And I thought that was the coolest thing, that she had this company going.
They still come down the driveway.
Now they come like probably 20 times a day or with like a semi.
That's so sweet. I didn't realize that you remembered that or that was going on at that time.
Oh, yeah.
I remember your husband, Doc, out in the field with a polo ball and a polo mallet, hitting the ball, swinging the mallet. And I thought, how cool is that? There's no way I could be on a horse or a polo pony and hit a ball at I don't know how many miles per hour, but that's what you did.
Yeah.
You did that, and I can't imagine.
It was the most fun ever.
Was it?
Oh my gosh, it was a great sport.
That's awesome.
It was a great sport, a dangerous sport, but it was a great sport.
Yeah.
So when did you start being a part of the A circuit?
When we were in Florida at that period of time, I was showing on the A circuit, and my husband was into the polo. And I played polo also, but my main thing was the jumpers. So I would take horses off the racetrack that their careers were over, and usually they were young, 3-4 years old, and their careers were already over.
Wow.
But you try to get them young with clean legs, and most of the time they were just thoroughbreds that didn't have the heart to race, and those were the best type to take and make into hunters and jumpers. Mm-hmm. So that was probably in, I would say, 88, 87, 88, up until 90, I think 95, we were probably, or actually like 2000 is when we moved back here.
And then at that point you were focused on dressage.
I still did jumpers and stuff, but when we moved back to Northwest Ohio, you didn't have the circuit here.
Yeah.
And it was a totally different ball of wax. So then I just sort of thought, and I was getting a little older, so I thought I'm just going to really focus on my flat work. And I found a good dressage instructor, and then I found a better dressage instructor, and then I found a better dressage instructor. And then it was just like, I was addicted, but I just wanted always the best. I wanted the best instruction. That's the thing with dressage. It's really one sport, I think, in all of horses. Dressage is something that you don't just do. You have to study it. It's something that you really have to understand the mechanics of it and the history of it and the theory of it to really grasp how important it is to do it correctly. So that's what sort of sets it apart from any other equine sport. And I think you have to be at a certain maturity level. I mean, some young children do it very, very well. But for me, I don't think I had the patience to really learn it until I got older.
Yeah, that ability to just think the whole thing through rather than just get on and go.
It takes so much thought to understand all the different things.
So for our listeners, how would you get started in this sport?
And can I ask one? What horse was your first horse that you started with when you started
dressage? That would have been Chewy.
Okay, Chewy. And then did you go into other horses then? He was a off-the-track horse?
He was an off-the-track horse, and he started as a hunter, but then he ended up having to have colic surgery.
Okay.
And I always felt it was too much to stress him to do the jumpers anymore. So that was the horse that sort of said to me, why don't you focus on just the flat work to really rebuild this horse after the colic surgery? And after learning the basics of dressage, I just thought, wow, I'm really going to implement this into my jumping program. So it really became important to me to use that on every horse I took over fences. They had to have a dressage foundation. And then gradually I sort of got rid of the jumping part and just stayed with the dressage.
Okay.
That's cool. So To go back to the question earlier, how would you get someone, or how would you start in dressage?
If I was going to be asked by someone advice on how to start, the first thing that I would do is, I think the most important thing is to find a support group, a club, a barn that does it well. And don't be afraid to do your homework. Don't be afraid to hurt people's feelings if you go to one barn and then you go to another barn and think, well, it seems like these people might be onto it a little bit more, because there's so many different varies of how intense people get with it. But what you really want is you want good instruction, a good foundation first. So search that out. I found my best instructors on Google, believe it or not. And don't be afraid of instructors that maybe have a really long list of credentials, because that's what you want. So don't be intimidated by trainers that may be gold medalists or, come from a foreign country, the European people. Don't be intimidated by that. Go with the people that have the best credentials.
I think that's true, because I think sometimes people do get intimidated by it. But, anybody, basically, any horse, I think you can work. There are so many people now, Western world and everybody doing all of this, the dressage. But do you feel anybody can do like the basics with their horse, no matter, what kind of horse they have? Or
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, the best. The only thing that you really require in a dressage horse is in any horse, in any discipline, is a good brain. And soundness. So you want to have a horse that's got the ability to learn, that's got a good brain, and then you want to have a horse that's somewhat built to do the job. Bear in mind, we're not going to the Olympics. This is something that my husband always says to me. Why do you need such a fancy horse?
Bonnie's shaking her head, yes.
You can take any horse and teach it the basics of dressage. And that's a great way for a green rider and a green horse to come together, is to sort of study it together. And then as each of you progress, then you can go to a, more in depth and maybe get a little bit better horse. But I think any horse is a candidate for dressage, because the basics of dressage is to improve the horse. It's a gymnastically, to go to the classical method of it, is you're basically teaching an animal to be ambidextrous. So horses are when they hit the ground out of the womb, they're either right-handed or left-handed, like we are. So the art of dressage is to teach a horse to be able to use both sides of his body with equal amounts of suppleness and equal amounts of strength. So, and
I know you had I know at one point, I don't know what, your whole path has been with your horses, but I know you had halflingers at one time.
Yep.
And you were riding them and doing some pretty big things with your halflingers compared to some of even the people with the warmbloods or whatever the case may be. But Correct. It was the amount of time you spent and teaching them and coming together. So you did that for some time.
The halflinger that I had, Adrenaline Rush, he actually was a 3-time National Pony Cup champion. Wow. And he was awesome. But he could also go in the ring and be competitive against big warmbloods. And usually come away with the blue ribbon and the highest score.
It's amazing.
He was a very, very, talented and, built to do the job kind of horse. But he was limited too, to a certain level. He would probably not progress as a horse that was actually bred to do the job. They have their limits, different breeds. But you can take them as far as you can take them, and the work is very good for the horses. So if that makes sense.
After your halflingers, then did you kind of continue on?
That's when I did. So when I told you I Googled trainers. When I Googled trainers, I found a trainer. Her name was Vanessa Voltman, and she's a Dutch trainer from the Netherlands. And so we started traveling to Michigan to school with her. Well, all the horses that she had were Dutch warmbloods, but she was very happy to work with me and my halflinger and my friend Bonnie and her halflinger. So she worked with us for, 3 or 4 years. And then I just sort of got bit by the warm blood bug. I felt like my riding had improved and that I deserved to take the next step forward because I had worked very hard.
Yeah.
So Vanessa had been making trips back and forth to Europe buying horses. And I asked her if she would find me one. And so she did. She found me the first one, General. And he's a magnificent horse. I mean, there's just a huge difference between the quality of the animal and the ability to do the job. And I had never really given that much credence until I actually sat on one.
Yeah.
And then after you do that, it's like there's no going back.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. And then she found me a second one, and so then I bought the second one, Hancock. So
that had to be exciting
I
when
have the
she
two.
was there and telling you these things, or how did you? I mean, you must have been like, waiting for the.
She sent me a video first of General, and I said, that's absolutely what I want. That's what I want. And we kind of got in a bidding war because there was another person that wanted that particular horse. But I just saw it, and I knew that was what I had to have. And then the second one, she called me and said, I did find this horse. I don't know if you want another one, but, he's magnificent, and I really think this horse has a lot of promise. So we got him, why not have two?
It's like saying, do you want more ice cream?
I know, exactly. You can't just have one. But I will tell you, I just recently bought another horse, a third horse, who is half Frisian and half paint.
Oh, cool.
So I did get bit by, away from the Dutch warm blood thing. And this horse is a 4-year-old little gelding, and he's going to be a star. So there you go, back to, what breeds can do the job. And now that I know, it seems like with dressage, you're always going forward and then back. It's like a constant, like you learn so much and then you feel like you've gone forward in your training, but there's something in that allows you to go back and be like, okay, well, now that I know this, I can go back and do that. So now I've kind of gone back and I found this little horse and I feel as though he's very talented to do the job because I know you want to have a horse that's got a really nice hind leg, which he does. He's got a lot of carrying power. He's got a very smart mind. So I feel like this horse is very trainable.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Did you say his name?
His name is Ace.
Cute.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a doll.
So when your warm bloods were, you chose your warm bloods, you said, yes, I want these warm bloods. Then they shipped them here, sent them here. Was that a little nerve-wracking, or did you just, were you in, did you go through that process watching everything that kind of happened as they brought them over, and then were they quarantined, or how did that work then, Faye?
That was really exciting, the whole process from having to wire the money to then working with the agents. There's agents that do all the different things over there. So
Amazing.
When you buy a horse, you have what's called a Dutch agent, and the Dutch agent takes care of handling the horse and getting the horse shipped to the airport and getting, the stall for the airfare and all that. I didn't have to worry about getting a plane ticket. They took care of all that for me. I just had to pay for it.
Yeah.
And it was a whirlwind, and it was really, really cool. Then you just wait, and your horse lands in New York.
New York.
That's the one quarantine facility that they usually come to. They have to be in, if it's a gelding, they have to be there for 3 days. If it's a mare, they have to be there for 30 days. And if it's a stallion, I think they might have to be there for 60 days. But then they're released from quarantine, and you set up the shipping, and they ship them to your farm.
What is the purpose of quarantine?
Quarantine is, it's a wellness check. So they make sure that the horse is healthy when it lands. When the horse leaves Europe, it has to have the same thing where they make sure it's not having a fever. There's no runny nose. They just check it out so that before it travels, it's healthy. Obviously, it has blood tests and stuff, too, to make sure that it doesn't have any transmittable diseases. Then when it arrives in the United States, that since it's already had all the other things ruled out, it's basically just a fever thing. They just want to make sure that the horse isn't carrying a fever that would cause some kind of an outbreak in the United States.
Okay.
So they're quarantined for that for 3 days. As far as the mare and the stallion goes, I can't really answer to that because I'm not really sure what they're all looking for with that.
So then how long did your horses have to stay there? Was it just 3 days?
Just 3 days. Okay. Yep.
And then they were trailered to Ohio?
Yeah.
Or?
Then they get on a trailer, and a gentleman named Mike actually picked up my horses in New York and shipped them to me at my farm. Brought them straight to my farm.
That had to be a day when they came.
It was very exciting.
Those
it was very
horses
exciting.
Have been more places than I have.
I know, right? They actually come with a passport. It's
And
pretty
they
cool.
speak Dutch.
They come with their little luggage. Yeah.
And they have an accent.
They have an accent.
They do.
Exactly.
It takes a while to understand what they're saying.
Right. And so they know what you're saying, too. Exactly. So they settled in pretty well right away?
They did. They were both of the horses were really pretty simple. They got off the trailer. With a big trip like that, they're usually tired, so you don't really see their true colors for maybe like a month. Both of my horses came in the winter, so there was still a lot of confinement after that for them. They couldn't really go out in the snow and stuff. But we basically got to work right away. Started riding them. They were both young. One was 2, one was 3.
Oh, wow.
So they were both young.
And no one had really ridden them previously too, or just a slight bit, so that like you basically were their first owner?
They
so
were,
to speak?
They were just started under saddle,
Okay.
so they hadn't had too many rides on them.
Okay.
But they were safe enough.
Yeah.
Safe enough. I only came off once.
Wow.
And the shows that you're doing, Faye, or are you just looking at wanting to further yourself? What's important to you now with what you're doing with your horses then?
I think the most important thing for me now is that my horses continue their training with their age to keep them where they should be in the training scale. Coco or Hancock, the younger one, actually spent 2 seasons in Wellington with Vanessa, with the trainer that I work with, Vanessa Voltman. So he got a really, really good start on his training, and he showed in Wellington. He did very well. And then he was shown here at the Waterloo Series shows. And so Vanessa had him for 2 years, and then I brought him home, and I've kept him now. I've almost had him for 2 years myself. So he's done a little bit more than General. And General has been, the same. It's just when you sort of have certain parameters that you want to have them trained to at a certain age. You don't want to get them too far behind. But with young horses, there's always things that happen. They can become sore where you have to hold them back a little bit, or they can injure themselves where you have to hold them back a little bit. So the most important thing is just to make sure that the horses stay fit and they stay properly trained to the level that you're working with at the time, if that makes sense.
All right. Do we have any other questions from the table?
No.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Faye, for coming. Let us know if you have anyone that you'd like to hear on our show. Email us at podcast@ramfence.com. We'll be taking a short break, and when we get back, we will enter our next segment, Canter Banter.
Our next segment, Canter Banter, is brought to you by RAMM Horse Fencing and Stalls, the one-stop shop for your horse farm. RAMM is family-owned and operated and has been in business for over 30 years. We welcome you to call in and speak with an expert about your next project today at 866-653-8984. Again, that's 866-653-8984.
For a Canter Banter discussion, we are going to talk about what to eat in the winter. Today, I am joined by Debbie, Fae Leffler, and Trevor. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hey.
Hi.
So, what do you guys eat or cook in the winter?
Comfort food.
Yeah.
I
A
know.
lot of soup.
Yeah, I know for me, chili, like all the time.
All the time still?
All
chili?
the time, yeah.
You are. What about you,
I
Trevor?
was gonna say I eat chili like year round, only because I like soup.
Yeah.
I really like soup. I don't cook it. I don't cook
Yeah.
anything. I don't know. But
Faye, you're a good cook. What do you?
Oh, please.
Oh, you are. What's one of your,
I
go-tos for winter or?
Lately, I've been eating a lot of soup, but I've been making it really easy because I've been so busy in the barn. But I found, we were just talking about this last night.
Yeah.
I found this great at Walmart and Kroger bone broth that they have in their deli.
Really good.
Then I get a rotisserie chicken and take the chicken meat and chop it up. And then I get celery. It's just a really simple chicken. Put any kind of vegetables in it that you want. And I think I eat that a couple times a day.
Sounds so good.
Yeah.
I know at our house we do a lot of like whatever is in season. We end up like cutting up those vegetables, tossing olive oil on it, and throwing it in the oven and letting it roast, and then with some kind of protein, and then like taking it out. So like we've done a lot of Brussels sprouts and just like winter squashes, which have been great. Yeah.
I like hot soup too. I don't like it just like a little hot. I like it really hot. Do you
Like
guys?
spicy hot or like temperature hot?
Temperature hot.
Okay.
She does not do spicy. She's always
I was
cold.
No,
like,
I'm
that's
not
all
spicy
you.
girl. No, yeah, no. So, but no, that always. Yeah, I don't know. Soup's good.
Soup and
sure.
pasta.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
Cocoa.
And like
cocoa.
crunchy bread. Always.
Yeah.
Or casseroles too. Casserole. So I've had.
What's your favorite?
So it's new that I just got introduced to this year. It's a zucchini casserole.
That sounds good.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
What's
got
in it?
it's. I believe it's stuffing, zucchini, some
heavy.
cheese, carrots.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean
It's
it
heavy.
it fills,
you up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's pretty good.
That
And you
sounds-
eat it like really warm, like hot, like
Oh.
how you were saying with the soup.
That's like a one meal, like just like the soup.
Yep.
You can just have
I
that
can just
and
eat
not have.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So, our horses too. Then we kind of switch up their food in the wintertime. I know we kind of beef up on the hay that our horses get, and then they get some extra grain. Do you do anything special, Faye, with your horses? Then I know you've got your warmbloods, and they're probably very tall horses, like big horses. So.
They are, but they really, I love to give them stuff that keeps the moisture in their stomach. So I love beet pulp. And I also love the chopped hay.
Okay.
And they get that for lunch. They'll get a bowl of chopped hay with hot water mixed into it.
Aw.
And then they'll get the warm beet pulp put in with their regular gran ration at night. And, anything to keep... Sometimes it's hard to keep horses drinking enough in the winter.
Yeah.
So adding that moisture to their feed really helps. Also, adding salt to their diet. So I give them, you can just take a container of the iodized salt, sprinkle a little bit on their food.
Gets them to drink a little more then.
And a lot of supplemental companies now will make like an actual salt pellet that you can put in there.
Oh, that's cool.
So those three things I think are really important. Just really keeping the horses hydrated, because when they don't stay hydrated, that's when trouble starts.
Yeah.
Do you monitor their water? Do you watch it? Do you do buckets? Do you do?
I do.
What do you do? Okay.
I do.
Just
I
watch
actually
buckets.
do have automatic waters in my barn, but all the horses have buckets because I want to know every day that they're drinking.
Yeah.
And they also like to dip their hay in the water buckets. So, they're making their own tea or soup or whatever.
So cute.
They like to cook too.
Yeah, they like to cook too.
It's better than I can do.
That's cute.
And lots of hay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so you do the chopped hay, but then do you buy hay locally then too, like hay bales, or what do you look at a specific kind of hay?
We actually grow our own hay on the farm. So that's really good for me because I can control my source.
Do you do a pasture mix of some sort, or is it
one of my fields is a grass alfalfa mix, and my other field is just grass. So usually I keep both on hand, and then I can give the horses what they need at any given time. So if it's spring grass that they're eating out in the pasture, then they get just grass when they're eating their grass in their stalls. If they're if it's winter like now, then I can give them more of the grass alfalfa mix.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's good to have the two different things on hand.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, a little bit different than summertime, but, well taken care of and enough to give them what they need through the winter. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like us.
Yeah. Exactly. Got to keep your fridge full.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. We hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast and encourage you to share with all of your equestrian family and friends. You can tune in to the Late Night Riders podcast show every Friday night. Each episode will be uploaded exclusively on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with our latest shows. Do you have a topic you'd like to discuss? Do you have someone that you want to hear from? We want to hear from you. You may email us at podcast@ramfence.com or feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you again for listening.